Welcome to Over 50 TV. My name is Lou Reyes, and I want to thank you for sharing your Saturday with me. For some of you, I guess it's Saturday afternoon, like it is for me here in Northeast Ohio. But for others I know who are across the country or maybe even in another country, I know it's a little bit of a different time zone. But regardless of all that, thanks for joining me here today. And today I thought I would just touch on or really dive into a topic that has really come to the forefront lately here on my channel here on Over 50 TV because I've done a couple of videos on ageism, a few videos over the years on ageism. And lately I've been getting some contacts from folks, comments, even emails from folks who are talking about some of the issues that they're having. So the more comments I got, the more emails I received, the more I thought, you know what, I better address this topic. I should address it. So yeah, we're going to do that here today. And really specifically, what we're going to talk about is how ageism has crushed the retirement dreams for millions of folks out there. That's no exaggeration. To be going over some of the numbers with you in a second. But more importantly, what I want to do is really talk to you about how you can protect yourself from ageism. And I'm going to really dive into that. So if you're somebody out there who has been working at a company and you're just finding that you are not receiving the income you should be receiving, you're not getting the promotion, you're being excluded, ignored, well, then this is the video I think you're gonna want to watch because I'll help you to address that. So as I compiled this video and I did the research on it, what I did is I wrote this introduction and I want to read it to you, or at least tell you what I wrote. It says here, ageism has forced millions of older workers out of their jobs, crushing retirement dreams and financial stability. So in this video, I'm going to reveal how ageism impacts savings, Social Security, and peak earning years. And most importantly, what I want to do is I want to share some actionable steps that you can take to protect your retirement from its devastating effects. Now, that is the description of this video. That's what I wrote. And when I put devastating effects, when I wrote that down, I thought, you know what? Some folks are going to think this is an exaggeration because certainly there are people out there who have watched my videos who have said, Lou, I'm working at a company and everything seems to be really good here. But I can tell you this, you're among 44% of workers over the age of 50 who who have clearly found a great job, but there are 56% of you out there who haven't. So let's just get into it. But let's first start by defining ageism. And I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. So ageism is discrimination or stereotyping that is based on age. And this discrimination, this stereotyping leads to unfair treatment in hiring, in promotions, in assignments, or in some cases, in really many cases, too many cases, it leads to terminations. You get fired from your job. So a lot of folks will say, well, why does it matter, Lou? And obviously, if you're asking that question, you're probably a bit younger. But I will say this. Ageism can derail financial stability during the most critical working years, during our most critical working years. And that can have and will have devastating effects on us for the rest of our life. But what I find is some folks, when it comes to ageism, yeah, maybe you are a person who is not experiencing what I call extreme ageism, which is being pushed out of your job. Now, there's lots of folks that'll say, hey, Lou, I'm working at this job. I'm not being fired, but I am basically being ignored. I'm someone who is not even taken seriously because of my age. And I think it's almost like a PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, when you're having to go through it every single day. But extreme ageism, being pushed out of your job, it's tough because what it does is it introduces you to some of the most severe types of ageism. What they say is this: 56% of older Americans are pushed out. They're pushed out, and this is according to ProPublica and the Urban Institute. Says over half of older workers in stable long-term jobs are pushed out of their jobs, and they're often suffering irreversible financial harm. And when it comes to displacement, when it comes to being fired, there are stats that show that men between the ages of 50 and 61 are going to experience significantly more likelihood of being displaced than, say, somebody who's younger, somebody who's between the age of 25 and 34. So what you see here is ageism. 56% of older Americans are pushed out, and they're pushed out in what is called their peak earning years. And this is a setback. It's a financial impact that actually is devastating. And that was no exaggeration. As I said in the beginning, there's an organization, Alec Wealth Management, and they say the peak earning years are typically your late 40s to your late 50s. And for if we want to get gender specific, I'll say that women, their peak earning years are said to be between 35 and 54. Men's peak earning years are 45 to 64. There's stats on this. I can share this with you if you have questions. But it does matter. It does matter if you're somebody who experiences ageism in your peak earning years, because you will not have time to build your savings, to do the investing you need to do, to build the retirement security. And there are plenty of folks out there who are experiencing this exact situation. And the consequences when you are a person who is pushed out in your peak earning years is you're never going to recover, or it's very unlikely that you will recover. Only 1 in 10 people who are displaced workers who are pushed out of their job because of their age, only 1 in 10 ever earn as much as they earned prior to being pushed out of that job. And so what that means is that their household income will drop. And more than half of folks out there who've gone through ageism, experience ageism, they know they're substantially lower household income. And this just makes it makes it hard to save and invest. And this affects your Social Security, which is so important to many of us out there. Social Security, as we know, you're working at a job, 6.2% of your income, 6.2% of your income is taken out of your check whenever you get it, every week or every other week or once a month. The employer, your employer, matches that at 6.2%. So you've got 12.4% contribution every single month to Social Security. Now, Social Security, as some of you know, is really based on your 35-year highest earning years, 35 highest earning years. So if you lose your peak earnings, if you're laid off, if you're fired, if you're pushed out of that job and you're pushed out, well, that's going to impact your Social Security. And a lot of times it will reduce your retirement income significantly. So there is a real impact that we have when we are victims, and I say the word, I don't use it too lightly, but when we're a victim of ageism. But another consequence of ageism, besides the low savings and investment and possibly even lower Social Security benefits, is what's called unretiring. And this unretiring, what it means is that you say you retired and you found you've got to go back to work. What we know is this: in 2024, I'm throwing a lot of stats out here. Hopefully you can appreciate that. But in 2024, 191,000 men over the age of 70 years old rejoined the workforce. This was in 2024. Actually, it was in September of 2024. In October of 2024, just a couple months ago, it was determined that 144,000 people who retired actually unretired and went back into the workforce. And women, besides men, I've given you some stats on men, but women are experiencing the same exact thing in terms of having to rejoin the workforce. And why it's happening is 53% of folks out there who are rejoining the workforce are saying, hey, I can't live on what I have. I'm concerned about my retirement. So 53% are returning to work because they're concerned about the retirement. This is according to CNBC in a survey that was done by SurveyMonkey. Now, there's other folks who are going to return because, they just want some extra cash, or maybe because they're decided they want to basically have some place to go, people to talk to. But you have a significant amount of folks who are being impacted by ageism in the workplace, and it affects your savings, and it affects your life. So I can conclude this portion because I'm going to get down to how to protect yourself, because I think this is real important for a lot of you out there. As I said in the opening of this video, ageism has crushed the retirement dreams for millions of folks. And ageism has disrupted them during their peak earning years, and it reduces their savings and their Social Security contributions. It also means that they are financially displaced, and it leaves them really unprepared for retirement. But it's also a lot of folks are being impacted in terms of they have to go back to work. They retired, now they've got to unretire, and it's often a necessity that's driven by their insufficient savings and of course their rising expenses, and we see this with inflation. So here's the core message that I want to give you today is how to protect yourself against ageism. This is important. Now, I'm going to make some suggestions, and the suggestions that I'm going to give you are based on my experience as somebody who's employed hundreds of folks. I owned a chain of business to business magazines, a weekly newspaper, a couple national trade show companies, a few other businesses. So I've had an opportunity to work in corporate America, along many years of working in corporate America. And I can tell you that what I'm going to suggest to you is just based on my own experience and based on my observations. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, if you want to protect yourself against ageism, is objectively, as much as you can be objective, assess your situation at work. Look at how you're being treated. Look at if you've been passed up for a raise or a promotion. Are you being included or excluded from important meetings or assignments? When was the last time, I guess maybe we should ask this, when was the last time you got a raise? When was the last time you got a pat on the back? When was the last time you got a smile from your boss? You said, hey, good work, good job. Really, I like what you're doing. So you want to assess your current work situation and be as objective as possible. And I would say it's never too soon to do that. Do it as quickly as possible because you want to know where you're at, where you stand in that workplace. Now, if you assess yourself and all those things that I've just mentioned to you, all those questions I'm asking you to pose to yourself, to ask yourself, if you do that and you say, you know what, they love me here. I've got a great job. I'm being treated fairly. I've been getting raises and promotions. I don't have to worry about that. I'm not being excluded from important meetings or assignments. If you are one of the fortunate folks that can say that, well, then great. I'd say, yeah, it's a good situation to be in. That's just my guess. But if you're not being included, if you're not getting those perks, then I say you got to look at your position. And then what I would do, and maybe you do this already, you just plan ahead for your work life entirely. You're going to want to do that, but you're also going to want to plan ahead, of course, for your retirement. But you're going to want to plan ahead. You have to learn new skills. I would just recommend that. We should always invest in ourselves because when you invest in yourself and you keep your skills sharp, you've got a better opportunity, a better chance of finding a new job should you be pushed out because of ageism. Now, another thing that I'm always going to recommend is network. Networking is key. What over 80% of new jobs, over 80% of jobs are found through networking. So if you're somebody who's in your 50s or your mid 50s or your 60s, or maybe even I'll go as far as saying you're in your 70s, and you know you've got to work, you know you don't have a choice. Well, I would say networking is key because networking has a greater percentage chance of you finding a job if you network. So networking is going to be important. Something else I've always recommend if you watch this channel, I talk about starting a side hustle. You know, starting a side hustle for a lot of folks out there, starting a side hustle is just a darn good idea. It's a damn good idea. Starting a side hustle while you're working. There's a few reasons that I recommend it, but one of the biggest reasons, obviously, is that you're going to have that extra income. You'll have income coming in case something happens, in case you are pushed out of your job. So starting a side hustle isn't a bad idea. It's a great idea. I've got another YouTube channel called Side Hustle Rules. On that channel, what I do is I talk about starting that side hustle. Talk about how you ramp it up, build it up, make an income, maybe even do it or turn it into a full-time job. I mentioned I ran a chain of business to business magazines, weekly newspaper. I've done a lot of business startups. So I do have a lot of experience in that field. So when I say learning a startup, learning a side hustle, learning how to do it, and then I also have videos that tell you how to do it, well, you're getting it from somebody who's walked the walk. It's not just somebody on YouTube is saying, yeah, do this. I studied it, start a side hustle. No, I've done it. I built them, multi-million-dollar businesses from starting side hustles. They were always a side hustle that grew into a larger business. So yeah, consider starting a side hustle. But I'm also going to say this, something that I do today, I do it this morning, I'll do it tonight. I stay on top of the news. I stay on top of the economic and the job news. I want to know what's going on. I watch CNBC every Friday morning so I can get the job report. I want to know what's going on. And I am self employed. I don't need to do it, but it's a habit that I've developed because I know it's important. So, summing this whole thing up, just to sum it up, yeah, there is a likelihood, a 56% chance that you will lose your job because of ageism. And there are studies that prove this. So please don't write me. And some folks will say, well, Lou, you know what? It's fear mongering. It's not going to happen. Well, 56% of the folks out there have experienced it. So please don't tell me that. So it's likely that you could lose your job. You got a 56% chance of losing it because of ageism. I don't want that to happen to you. So prepare. Study your work situation. Be objective as you can be. But the items I mentioned, think about those. Look at your job. Is it, be objective. Look at your situation at work. Are you being treated fairly? As I said, are you getting raises? You're getting a pat on the back. But you want to be objective. You want to be objective. So prepare for the future, my friends. Prepare. And I've just saw this message from Annie Shenanigans here. I'm so tired of work, and I'm back from a 7-day cruise and already exhausted from chores and chatter. Annie, believe me, I can totally understand about being tired of working, but you know what? That's why, for me anyway, what I tried to do, or I did do, fortunately for me, is I just found a gig that I really liked. And when I talk about a side hustle, this channel started as a side hustle, and it's taken a few years to build it up. But once I got monetized on Over 50 TV on YouTube, well, you know what? Then it started becoming more fun and more fun. And the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it. So that's what I'm going to recommend to a lot of folks out there. Start that side hustle, but please do not ignore the fact that there is a chance. There's a chance, and stats will show it. So it's not me being a fear mongerer. It's not me just being dramatic. It's 56% of folks. And I'm talking about in the U.S. I'm sure it's true over in the UK, true in Europe. But 56% of folks are pushed out of their jobs because of their age. So please think about that. Think about what you can do, because you can do something. You can do it today. You can do it now. And you can look at your next week and say, man, I got a future here, and I'm building it for myself. So that's all I got for you. If you've got any questions, any comments, please go ahead. Send me an email, make a comment. Love to respond back to you. Get back to everybody as fast as I can. Subscribe to this channel too if you are so inclined. Subscribe to Side Hustle Rules too if you are thinking about starting a side hustle, because I do give you a lot of information there. And then also I tell everybody I do have a free newsletter that I send out. It's actually just a one-sheeter, but I give you up-to-date news on Social Security, and I also give you retirement tips just like we're talking about here today. Well, that's all I got for you. As I said, I'm going to go ahead and shut off my new software here, because we're done right now. Thanks a lot for watching. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.